The lawyer for the alleged gunman in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial has argued that the ballistics experts' findings are inconsistent. Yesterday, Colonel Olebile Sereo concluded his testimony over his findings on the work done by ballistics expert Christopher Mangena. Now, paving a way for a new witness to take the stand. For more details, we are joined by Mnisi, who's been following the story very, very closely. It's going to be really quite interesting eventually when we get to what the ruling is on what we heard from Serero versus what we heard from Mangena. But I think let's talk about really the standout moments from what we heard from the two witnesses.
Yeah, essentially what the two witnesses seem to agree on is that the bullet that was found at the crime scene actually matches the firearm that was recovered from accused number 3, Mtobisi Ngube. And they've gone on to outline the work that they've done and the methods that they've used to sort of identify what they say are individual marks that would have been left by the gun on the bullet. Now, they use a principle, there's this saying that goes, no two guns can leave the same individual marks on a bullet, which means there can only be one gun that leaves or left those marks on that bullet. And according to Mangena and Sereo, it was the gun that was recovered from accused number 3. Now, during cross-examination, obviously, they'll take them up on a number of aspects, and this including the handling of the actual firearm. This is a firearm, Naledi, that was recovered in 2015 in Mngube's rented room when he was being arrested in a separate case. The findings in that case were done and were concluded. And according to Mangena, this firearm was then taken to the police station in question that had been investigating the case, which is the Cleveland police station. There, the firearm was destined for destruction until information emerged through investigations that actually this is the firearm that could have been involved in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. He says he did tests, but he needed to get the actual firearm to conduct proper tests that would give him satisfactory results. So he went to the police station, he found it in an open sealed bag, and now the defense is arguing that there could have been tampering with that particular firearm, because why was it in an open sealed bag? And again, he explains it was destined for destruction. It was going to be destroyed after the results were concluded. And essentially he details the chain in which it was kept in, the number, the serial number, saying it was still the same firearm because on the seal bag there was still the same number, on the tag of the firearm there was still the same number. But the defense saying that they didn't follow procedure, the handling of the firearm was not done properly. Let's take a listen.
In the circumstances which have just been sketched now, yourself being a member of the Forensic Science Laboratory of South Africa, was procedure followed?
My answer cannot be detached completely from what happened at that. The generic procedure in the SAPS was followed. Why I'm saying so is because the firearm, according to information that has just been supplied to me now, Mangena did not just go to the station, took the firearm and left with it. He booked it at the police station, which means that he completed the SAP 13 or the exhibit register at that particular time.
I can tell you that is not in dispute.
So I was just explaining regarding the generic police procedure, not the forensic procedure, the generic police official, the procedure actually that empowers a police officer to do certain things. So in terms of the police protocol, he is entitled, he is able to book it out. However, I'm going to admit that there was a slight deviation from the normal course with respect to the ordinary forensic science procedure. That is why I wanted to refer to Mangena's affidavit.
All right, so you hear him there saying there was a slight deviation, and he says with the handling of exhibits in ballistics, there are guidelines that provide for that, but there are circumstances that may warrant a slight deviation, and those circumstances may not necessarily be catered for by the guidelines. And he says the deviation is explained by Mangena in his affidavit to say the firearm was already in police custody. It was not booked out. in a separate case. It was booked out in the very same case that had been concluded in order to fire the same test. But then he's now taken up on his results and his findings. And according to the defense, the evidence of Mangena is that the one bullet that he used to demonstrate that he found marks was slightly bent, which left the marks that he says were satisfactory. Now, the defense is saying your bullet, the one that you took, of the 8 that he tested, was not bent. So your findings could have not been consistent with him due to the nature of the bullets that you used. And this is what he had to say. Let's take a listen.
His confirmation of Mr. Mangena's work to have been positive could not have been proper because they were working on exhibits which did not have similar characteristics. That is what I'm trying to say.
I have already explained that the ballistics is not based on the fact that the marks which are visible on even bullets fired from the same firearm, those marks are not microscopically identical. They are similar. They are similar to a certain degree. So what you see on test number 1 is not a photocopy of the surface of test bullet number 5 or number 6. The degree of similarity among the tests will show that they have a common origin. But it does not mean that they are microscopically identical, but they are similar to a high degree.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And then, of course, it's interesting as well just to listen to the minutiae of detail that the court is going to be looking at moving forward and has done, particularly with the last 2 witnesses. Who's next on the stand?
All right, so we know from the state and what the state has told the court that the next witness should be the lead investigator of the case. You know, when you see that guy, Brigadier Bongani Ginenda, it really is essentially marking the end of the state's case. We understand that he should be next. There are also other witnesses that the court wants to call, but we understand that it will only call after the defense's own expert has taken the stand. So for now, we wait to hear whether or not the state will be calling Brigadier Bongani Ginenda.
All right, I can tell you this, the country watches closely, and thank you so much for keeping us updated. Linda Mnisi there, our reporter, keeping a close eye on that story.